and will not work. What I'm talking about is gasoline direct injection, GDI, but I'm going to throw one more letter into it, of the alphabet. I'm going to throw a T in it, turbo gas direct injection. That's on the turbocharged, the EcoBoost from Ford on their V6 engine on their truck. That engine is around on lots and lots of cars, especially a lot of four-cylinders out there that are putting out over 200 and 300 horsepower. And all things considered, it's a wonderful invention. It's a wonderful thing. And we've talked about before how you should buy a car that's 5 years old because it's already depreciated 66% of its value. And here's the downside. You buy a car that's 5 years old, that's depreciated 66% of its value, and the customer who bought this turbo gasoline direct injection engine, yeah, you got a mess on your hands because probably he might not have been using correct oil. Because what people use here in the United States for turbo engines, gasoline direct injection, turbo engines, and what they use overseas in Europe are two different things. Even though they both may say the same thing on the bottle. Because it's all about marketing. It's all about getting, can we sell this bottle of oil for $1 cheaper? We can sell this bottle of oil. Which one will sell better? And we've talked about this before. There's certain oils that should not be sold outside the Americas because it's written on the bottle itself not to be sold outside the Americas, because the oil that is made here to be called full synthetic is not the same type base oils that are overseas that they're using. The European oils that they're using that are the synthetic oils, they're a completely different base stock. They don't come out of the ground. They're made in a test tube, just like only 2 or 3 oils here in America are made out of a test tube. But a lot of people think that the oil that comes out of the ground that's been certified full synthetic will work on their car. Yeah, to work on your car, and yeah, to get you through warranty, and that's about it. Because what ends up happening is you end up building carbon deposits on these gasoline direct injection engines. You end up building carbon deposits on the intake valves. You end up building carbon deposits on the top of the pistons. You end up building carbon deposits on the back of the exhaust valves. All this carbon deposits are due to the way the engine is designed and the oil that is used and the gasoline type. The type oil and the type gasoline being used on the gasoline direct injection engines are what's causing these problems on these engines. And normally they manifest themselves once the car gets out of warranty. Like who would figure this out, Because it's not the manufacturer's job is not to make you a 100,000 mile car or a 200,000 mile car. Their job is to get it through warranty, in one piece without having major problems. And then after you get through warranty, you say, I'm tired of it, I want a new one. That's how they make their money, is selling new cars. But unfortunately, that doesn't always work this way, because you buy a car that's 5 years old, 3 years old, whatever. It depends on how well that maintenance was performed the following 50,000 miles. I have people that go one oil change every 10,000 miles. And they say, I want to change my oil every 10,000 miles. I said, you can change it every 10,000 miles if you want to, but by the time you get 100,000 miles on it, you'll be replacing the engine. Well, the manufacturer says I can do it at every 10,000 miles. And I said, yeah, you can do that. You really can go a whole year if you want to. But let me tell you what's really happening. That oil is still good. If you're putting in a good oil that's a full synthetic oil, not a synthesized oil, it's still good. But that oil filter after 4,000 to 5,000 miles is restricted. It's in bypass mode. It's not even filtering anymore. So you're filtering dirty oil through the engine, and you wonder why your car is using oil now that you got 80,000 miles on it. You're going through a quart of oil every tank of gas, or sometimes even more, maybe a couple quarts of oil every tank of gas. And remember, a tank of gas only goes 300 to 400 miles on average. My Prius, I think I can get 500 miles on the highway on a tank of gas, but that's, we're going to talk more about that later. But the biggest thing I'm trying to say is on these turbocharged gasoline direct injected engines, please, I have people all the time, just put the cheapest oil they can in there. I said, no, I just hand them back the keys. I said, I can't help you out. I had a guy come in the other day, wanted me to change the oil in his car, 2009, no, 13 or 14, calls for 0 W20. And he says, just put me regular oil in there. I said, they don't make a regular oil in a zero weight. Well, I'm not going to pay $100 for an oil change. I said, well, then here's your key. Well, can't you just put regular oil in it? No, sir, I can't put regular oil in it. Because if I put regular oil in it, it can't take the stress. Gasoline direct injection engines, especially if they're turbocharged, you've got so much power, so much pressure, so much metal-to-metal contact that if you don't have a superior oil that can handle thermal breakdown, it can handle that shearing effect, all those things that oils do, you end up with a piece of junk. And it doesn't take long to have a piece of junk. It really doesn't. I've seen people buy cars and bought them used. They say had 50, 60,000 miles, or they're happy with their car. And they bring it to me, and I look at it and say, well, what I'm reading coming out the tailpipe, what I'm seeing coming out of the crankcase means this car hasn't been taken very good care of. I'm going to recommend, let's do an air induction cleaning. Let's do it, clean the intake valves off because I've seen misfires in here starting. I see codes where you get early morning startups like a P050D. If you ever see that on a car, on a General Motors car, that's misfires when it's cold. That's usually due to injectors or usually due to intake valves that are carboned up, causing misfires when it's cold. Very common problem. A lot of people don't even realize it is a common problem. They don't know how to fix it. And sometimes the fix is replacing the injectors. And sometimes the fix is as simple as cleaning things. And in most cases, cleaning's all you need to do. But the thing to keep from having such a major cleaning problem, that you have to do this on more of a regular basis and pay someone $300 to $1,000 to take intake manifolds off and walnut blast the intake valves. Why don't you just use the best gas you can? Top tier fuel. Top tier fuel is, I'm not talking about premium. I'm talking about if your car calls for 87 regular, get 87 regular, but buy it from Exxon, Shell, Mobil, BP. Those are top tier, TEIR, gas stations. They sell the fuel that's formulated with scavenging agents in it to remove carbon deposits that won't be on the back of the intake valve. That's one thing you can do right there, is change the way and where you're getting gas. If you're buying it from the local Hop and Pop, or I'm not trying to be derogatory or mean, I'm just telling you how it works. You can do what you want to do, but if you don't use the best fuel, you're going to end up paying me or someone like me to clean things, and you're going to be out of your car for a few days while it's being worked on. That's the fact, Jack. I mean, I cannot help that. I'm just trying to keep you from having trouble. Top tier fuel, that keeps from having carbon deposits on the back of the intake valves and keeps them clean. The other thing is the best oil. I am serious. If you put in chintzy oil that can't take the pressure and can't do its job and can't work right, then is it coming down the intake valve guide seals? It comes down, it gets cooked on there when the intake valve opens slightly at the same time the exhaust valve opens slightly, to let the exhaust gases out. It's called valve overlap. So you get hot exhaust gases coming back on that intake valve that normally, if you had a regular engine that wasn't gasoline directed, it'd get cooled down and washed off by gasoline spraying on the back of it. But since it's a gasoline direct injection engine, there's no gasoline washing on the back of the intake valve. So it gets dry and hot and carbon deposits build up on it. So, you start noticing when you crank the car up in the morning, the car runs rough. You get a check engine light, and after a few minutes, maybe the car smooths out and runs fine. Maybe the light goes out. Maybe it comes back on the next day. I don't know. I'm just saying, I see a lot of these things. You take it to a shop, they go, you got misfires. They say, let's do a tune-up on it. They throw you a set of coils and plugs, and same problem. You send $300-400, same problem. And you take it back to them. I don't know what's wrong with it. Well, the misfires are there in the mornings, and the misfires are there due to carbon deposits on the back of the intake valve and the exhaust valve. Only way you're going to be able to clean that, there's two ways. Chemically, you can try to do it, and that's the easiest and least invasive procedures, chemically, to do this. And you can do it by spraying down an intake valve cleaner it smells like kerosene. You spray it down the intake valve, down the intake while the car is running. It sucks it down, ingests it, gets it on it. The engine just stumbles and barely wants to run. We let it sit on it for 2 or 3 hours. They say an hour, but I let it sit for 2 or 3 hours. Then I'll fire the car up, and then I'll go drive it. And then, it starts to rattle and ping and makes all sorts of crazy noises because as that carbon starts to break off and dissolve. And be passed out through the car. So I will drive the car gently and faster, and finally we'll get it up to highway speeds and drive it until it stops misfiring, clear all the codes, and see how it runs. And then sometimes on some of these General Motors products, I have to come back and actually clean the injectors themselves. They sometimes don't spray a real good pattern. They told me in school, cleaning injectors on a gasoline direct injection engine is a waste of time. Doesn't do anything. Yeah, I used to think that too, after I had cars that had misfires in the mornings, and I tried cleaning with the IBC, and I didn't take care of the misfire, all of them, most of them, but not all of them. So I cleaned the injectors, and guess what? I did it. Took care of the problem. And they were telling me, the manufacturer, well, if you got misfires in injectors, all you can do is replace the injectors. Okay. Well, at $100-something an injector, and $100-something labor per injector to stick in, over an hour and a half per side to stick in, each injector, because they're really hard to get in and get out then get back in, because it's under real tight conditions and are not easy to get to. And I said, well, let's just try this. This is non-invasive. I'd rather do something that's non-invasive to a car that takes something apart. I mean, anyone would. I mean, why would you want to take something apart if you can fix it by putting a chemical in it, or changing a way you're doing something? But changing the oil and changing your filters and not going so long and using the best oil and the right oil is the best thing that anyone can do out there. And too many people out there ignore these things because, well, my father never did this, or my grandfather never did this, or, no one I know puts in zero weight oil. Why do you want to put in zero weight oil? How about this? How about 0W16? Yeah, that's some new oil coming out that's out. We got 026 and 0W16. Yeah, it's hard to believe something that, I mean, if someone had told me we'd be running that kind of weight oil, I would have laughed at them. I said, I can't believe that. Well, I remember them saying the same thing back in the early 90s when we went from 10W30 to 5W30. A lot of old mechanics said, that's just water, that's going to ruin engines. And a lot of them, believed that till they retired. But as the older I've got, the thinner the weight the oil, the better protection you have. It's just the opposite of what you think. It takes less horsepower, and you get better thermal protection by having a thinner weight oil that's designed for this, especially a full synthetic oil. So that's the big difference. Make sure you use the right oil, the right fuel, and do your maintenance correctly. Don't cut corners. Do not go 10,000 miles between oil changes. I don't care if they do you an oil change under warranty for free once a year. Have them do it once a year, but 6 months later, take it someplace else and have them do an oil change, just to make sure that the dealership's doing their job and they're not turning a blind eye to an oil leak or something that's dangerous. Remember, dealerships cannot sell warranty. What? They cannot sell warranty. If they see an oil leak and you haven't complained about it, and it's not bothering you, and it's a warranty issue, if the tech points it out, say, hey boss, there's a warranty issue on this thing, this oil pan is leaking, do we need to fix it? And he'll look at it and say, if you point that out and the customer's not complaining about it, that's selling warranty. And you can get yourself in trouble with the dealerships. The tech's job is not to sell warranty. I know you're sitting there going, what? They're supposed to do that. No, unless you're complaining about an oil leak or something, unless it's dangerous, they're not going to say anything about it. They'll turn a blind eye to it. That's why an independent shop won't turn a blind eye and will point. That's why I'm saying every 6 months, get your oil changed, get it looked at. If it's under warranty once a year by the manufacturer, then 6 months later, have it done by an independent shop to get it done correctly. Make sure it's done correctly, and make sure that everybody's watching each other. Always cover your six. Hey, it's James Morse. We'll be right back.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
All right, welcome back to our second part of our Monday morning show. Scott is calling all the way from Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Scott, what exciting jobs did y'all run into this weekend that required everybody on hand? Anything exciting?
Nothing that called for all hands on deck. Normal calls for sure. We did some relining jobs last week where we had to reline someone's all the plumbing under their house. And got it like brand new.
Oh.
So that was a good job last week.
And tell me how that works. Now, this is a house, older model house that had rotten pipes or collapsed pipes. Is that what it was?
It was an older house that had cast iron piping, and the bottom of the pipe was rotted out just from years of use and abuse and maybe even lack of maintenance. But we were able to clean it and successfully reline the entire system.
In case people don't understand how that works, explain how you actually clean them and reline the system. How does that work?
Well, we've got several methods. You know, we'll start possibly with the jetter, which is like a pressure washer that gently scrubs inside of the pipe. But we also have these tools that are, you know, for lack of a better term, it's a tube that has a cable inside, and then it'll have brushes with either a chain flail or we have a sanding attachment, and we'll go through that pipe and we'll knock all the scale and the rust and the years of just build up off of that pipe to get it good and clean to where the liner will adhere to it. Once we blow it into the system, it'll be a good surface to stick to.
Now, you were telling me the liner is kind of like taking a tube sock, and you turn it inside outward, and you blow it in there, and I guess with air, and then once you get it adhered where it's supposed to be or blown where it's supposed to be, then you put in hot water to pressurize it and to cure it. Is that how that works?
That's right.
Okay.
So we also invert a bladder inside of that.
Yeah,
so you're working with two layers inside the pipe, and then inside that bladder is a type of cloth water hose, very soft cloth water hose that gets pulled to the very end, and we pump hot water down to that end and then suck it back. So it's circulating hot water through that liner, whether it's 20 foot long or 200 foot long. We can circulate that hot water with a boiler, a portable boiler, and that increases the rate of curing of the liner, which is fiberglass. Once we, our calculations tell us that it's cured, we pull everything out, and they've got a brand new pipe.
So, from long story short, you take a pipe that's all rusty and corroded and misshapen. You clean it out best you can. You take a machine down there that either hydro scrubs it with water pressure or beats it off with a little chain mail, I guess, all that piece of rust or sand, and then you put this. I guess you inject this fiberglass sock down there, and then you make it press tight against the pipe by putting this bladder that has hot water in it that pushes against the pipe and make it adhere to it. Is that how that works?
That's right.
Good.
That's right. So we increase keep the constant pressure on that bladder at about 25 psi, which is enough to hold the fiberglass liner tight against the pipe. And once we circulate the hot water through there, that heat, as if anybody works with fiberglass, they know heat's going to cause it to cure quicker.
You betcha.
Sure.
And that's a fraction. And that's a fraction of the cost of if you had to rip the foundation apart, go down through the house, tear the house apart. Because I've seen you've had to do that on a couple of my houses before, a couple of our rental houses where the piping was so bad that there really wasn't anything to put a sock to. I mean, there was no pipe. It was literally gone. There was nothing but concrete there where the pipe had rotted away. And I guess you could actually repair those if it gets in where there's no pipe at all, but you got some sort of structure for the fiberglass to adhere to. Could y'all do that?
That's right. We have to have some sort of a host pipe. It doesn't have to be a lot of the pipe. If it's 2/3 of the pipe is there, we typically can work with that. We'll actually, in some cases, run a liner first through there to kind of bridge that gap. So when the bladder, the fiberglass liner is pushed through there, it doesn't overexpand into that void.
Yeah.
So at that point, we would have 3 layers, I guess, as it's curing.
It sounds like it's going to be a better pair than what you originally had down there. Now, I know that you're all the time looking for people to do this. Do you have to do people you hire already have this experience in putting liners in pipes and plumbing, or are you taking people right out of high school that have an interest but no practical hands-on experience in plumbing? What kind of people are y'all looking for?
This is definitely, there's a science to this process and an art to it. It's industry-wide. There's about a 15 to 20% failure rate. In other words, you're going to do 10 jobs and 1 or 2 of them are going to fail. So that's kind of an expectation. So it's a very risky process. So we've got it down to where our failure rate's probably less than 15%. You know, when we first started, it was much more than that.
Oh, I bet.
So it does take a lot of years of training. The couple of technicians that I have that specialize in that, you know, we do train young folks by actually working with them. But it does take a long time to train that specific process. Now, we do bring in young folks that are fresh out of high school or maybe switching careers. You know, we've had folks switch, you know, from really, you know, lucrative careers to find that it was more profitable to be a plumber. And we'll train them the technical side, you know, as long as they have the people skills. That
people skills are very, very important. And I'm finding that more out because who the plumber is dealing with is normally the lady of the house. It's normally the man's not there, and it's normally, you know, the house mother, so to speak, the lady of the house. She's the one that says, well, my sink doesn't flow, my toilets are backed up, I got a leak in there, and the husband just pays the bill after the wife says get it done. That's usually what ends up happening. Now, I'm not trying to sound sexist, but that's how it's been throughout history. Even in my industry, the husband may say, okay, I'm going to pay the bill, but the wife says, okay, I want the car fixed. That's how that works. Right. I see that all the time. Husband says, I really don't care about fixing. Wife says, you will fix my car. I'm tired of going without air conditioning. Okay. So that's usually how that works. Sure. And that's the same thing in household. But yeah, with this, now back to plumbing, teaching people. We know that right now there's a building boom in this area. I mean, especially out on the beach. I mean, they've got more construction, more houses. And I know the Hobbs Plumbing is probably involved in some of this out here on new construction. But are you training people how to do new construction as well as repairs? Your help?
Oh, absolutely. So, and that's really a good training ground for our Mr. Rooter side. Is we'll, you know, send somebody over and they'll learn it from the ground up. So, you know, it's kind of like you know, you're being a mechanic. If you can visualize you can hear it, you understand the symptoms, you can kind of visualize because you know how it's put together. It actually makes for a better service professional when, you know, if we pick out an individual that's the right candidate for, you know, the Mr. Rooter side.
Yeah. Now, what is the right candidate? If the right candidate, if you see him coming through the door, what is the right candidate looking for? I mean, I don't know if I should even point this out, but I know that I always look for in my mind's eye, what's the best mechanic for me? You know, I already envision what he looks like. You know, he's about 5'10", weighs about 170 pounds, looks a lot like me and just as smart as me. Don't always come true, but still, what are you looking for in a plumber technician?
Well, I try to find somebody smarter and more ambitious than me, and better looking than me,
All right.
No, but for real, we look for people that are clean-cut individuals that have good communication skills, good home training. You know, they know how to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. They really respect other folks' property, so they're gonna, you know, clean up the house better than they found it when they go out and do repairs. But I think, you know, in the positive attitude, you know, it takes, like in your business, you really have to have that determination to be able to figure something out. I'm going to figure out a solution for this problem, and that's a special trait. So those are the things we look for.
And not all special problems in my industry require replacement of the engine or replacement of a transmission. You know, major work. A lot of times it's something just knowing what nut or bolt to turn, or what, you know, to change, one little part to change. And a lot of times that's the same thing in your industry. Instead of having to maybe go in there and do a reliner, maybe it just needs one section of it done. And this is where experience comes in. This is where
that's right.
And what do y'all do? Y'all put an apprentice with an experienced tech and teach them the ropes, so to speak, for the first couple of years. Is that how that works?
Oh, absolutely. So we'll they always start out either on the new construction side, or they'll start out as a helper / trainee on the Mr. Rooter side, and so they will always work with an experienced plumber, and it may take a couple of years. Now, within 6 months to 12 months, they may be able to go out and do some simple jobs on their own that they've done, hundreds of times. But we have supervisors and field managers who, will stop in and check on them, kind of like you going back and checking on your mechanics that make sure the job is done correctly.
Now, this isn't just for men either. I mean, this isn't just for guys graduating from high school or, white male Anglo-Saxon Protestants, WASP. No, this is for men, women, and you don't have to. I saw one of your plumbing ladies over here. She was probably 5'3", 5'4", 130 pounds maybe, but she knew what the heck she was doing. I mean, I'm going like, okay, dynamite comes in small packages, that's for sure. She knew exactly what was going on. And so you don't have to be really big and strong to be a plumber, do you? Apparently.
No, and that particular lady that you saw, she actually drives the pump truck. She pulls the hoses off the truck and digs up the septic tank lid. Those ladies are just as tough as us men.
Tougher. They don't
That's
whine.
Right, tougher. They
don't whine. We whine. I don't want to do that. They just go to work on it. That makes a big difference out there. But I'm really glad. But if people want to know more about it, they can call you at 763-2001. Whether they're looking to get their septic tank or get some plumbing work done, or to buy the Advantage system for their rental houses or whatever, or if they're looking for a job. That's something that, well, right now y'all are looking for people big time. I mean, how many people do y'all need to hire right now? 5, 10, 20?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good number.
5, 10, 20. Okay, well, if you hear this message, get out there, make a phone call. There's no reason if you're young and want to learn a career that you can't get a job. Now, if you're lazy, that's the reason. That's the only reason you don't have a job right now, is because you're lazy. So I don't like lazy. I don't. People need to get busy or just get out of my way. All right, Scott, thank you so much for calling. And they can reach you at 763-2001, Monday through, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But don't call him in the middle of the night. Don't do that.
Right.
All right, Scott. I'll talk to you later. You be good.
You.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, this is James Morris. Thanks for watching. This has been a great Monday morning show. I really enjoy coming into your homes, your businesses, your place of employment, and just being able to share a little bit of my life with you and what's happening. We're going to keep doing this all the way to the end of the year, and then after the end of the year, that's going to be it. We've had a lot of fun over our last 20 years on radio and television. 2018 is going to be my last hurrah as far as doing television. I'll be still doing a little bit of Facebook, but I just want to thank everybody for making my last 20 years on television and radio a lot of fun. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, everybody.